roll call has been taken.
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll move on to adoption of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Barrington, seconded. Who got the second? Mr. Herder? Any additions or corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of September 14th, 2021 minutes.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion been made by Zog, and who seconded? Mr. Ritchie? Any additions or corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to authorization to pay the bills. Mr. Dorsey?
Yes, Your Honor. I make a motion to authorization to pay the bills in the amount of $1,272,582.24.
Second.
We have a motion and second by Mr. Herder to pay the bills in the amount of $1,272,582.24. Any additions or corrections? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 10-0. Move on to public comment. Any public comment? I ask if you have public comment to please state your name, come up to the microphone, state your name, and try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Shirley Sternberg. I own a building on West North Water Street. The Public Works Committee will be proposing a yes vote for number 3 on their agenda tonight. If this does not pass tonight, the next proposal will be for a 7-foot wide parking lane. Take into consideration the type and size of vehicles that park on North Water Street, and what is the width of the vehicle you drive. My husband's truck is 9.5 feet wide. My mid-size SUV is 7 foot wide. When a 7-foot wide vehicle parks 6 inches from the curb in a 7-foot wide parking lane, that vehicle is parking into the travel lane. Most vehicles parked in a 7-foot wide parking lane will be parked in the travel lane. This includes a van, a truck, a larger size SUV, a mid-size SUV, and even some cars. Decreasing the width of the travel lane by as much as 2 feet. That is too narrow. When I came in tonight, I looked out at the parking lot. There's a lot of trucks out there, a lot of vehicles that will not fit into a parking lane, and that's what you are driving. I look at this for safety. It was brought up that people should look into opening their doors. I could not agree more. You should look when you open a door, but who has not had to slow down or drive around or even stop for a vehicle opening their door? The new Werner Allen Boulevard is now a 12-foot wide travel lane, 8-foot wide parking lane. That's a good representation of the size we should have on our main street. By voting for the 8-foot wide parking lane, the sidewalk will be 9.5 feet wide. This will be an improvement to downtown New London without compromising the traveling and parking for our customers. I think we should want to keep our customers happy and safe. So I ask you tonight, vote for this proposal, the 12-foot wide travel lane, 8-foot wide parking lane, 9.5-foot wide sidewalk. Tabitha Meyer, who owns the River Edge Salon, could not make it tonight. She asked me if I would let you know that she would like you also to vote for this proposal with the 8-foot wide parking lane. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sternberg.
Good evening. I am Jennifer Heidemann, owner of Familiar Grounds. I also sit on the downtown committee for the downtown project. I also am the sitting president for the New London Chamber of Commerce, and I sit on the New London Tourism Committee. I am here tonight also about the downtown project. Before I go into any of my things, I just did a quick Google search. The average mid-size truck and SUV is 6.5 feet wide. So there we go. Let's just set that record straight right there. Yes, we did propose 38 feet for our road width, and what was approved was 40 feet. What I'm asking for you tonight is to at least reconsider negotiating at 39 feet. What 39 feet will do is it will widen that parking lane to 7.5 feet, which will make people that are concerned about parking, I'm a little bit more at ease about that, but what it will more importantly do for us as a committee is give us a sidewalk width of 10 feet, which is what we have been told by the developer is the minimum sidewalk width that we need in order to do what the citizens, business owners have told us that they want us to do. And that is add greenage, plants, trees, outdoor seating, things that will benefit the businesses that are there that want to expand outside a little bit for their current business. At the last meeting, I also talked about how New London can become a destination. It is a destination. It can be a bigger destination. People come to familiar grounds from Green Bay, from Appleton, from Oshkosh. They're coming to get away from the hustle and bustle of those big cities. I would love for them to stay a little bit longer and go walk downtown after they have their coffee and do a little bit of shopping, maybe go have lunch somewhere else, stay for supper, etc. We need to have a downtown that's appealing to them to have them stay. Tim mentioned that he believed that we're abandoning the people that live here in doing this and making it a destination. I live here. I want a nice downtown. I want to go sit on the sidewalk and eat my lunch at El Tequila. I want to go walk downtown on wide sidewalks during Winter Wonderland. I want our downtown to be amazing for the New London Fall Fest. I want our downtown to be awesome for any other events that we as a chamber or tourism committee decide we want to do to not only make New London a destination, but also make it a great city for the people that live here. I have a 15-year-old son, and we were driving through town the other day, and he said, New London could be really great if they paid attention to some of the smaller details. My son is 15. He plans on going on and being an airline pilot, and do you know where he has zero intent of moving back to? New London. New London has decreasing population. Why do we not want to make New London somewhere that our teenagers are proud to grow up in, will go and educate themselves, whether in a trade or in a business orientation, and bring that back to New London? Bring us skilled plumbers and mechanics and electricians and doctors and nurses and things that we need to continue to make our economy strive. In order to do that, we as a downtown committee need to be trusted that we are setting up the footings with a blueprint to be able to create a downtown that will help support the economy in New London to continue to have it grow for the citizens that are here, make it a destination for people that do not live here.
Coming up on your final seconds.
All right, so please, at minimum, consider the 39-foot. I know that it was brought up by Billy, but Fred pushed through the vote to 40 feet because he wanted to get out of there sooner. So please at least consider 39 feet as a negotiation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heidemann.
I'm Lynn Tank. I'm from the Lynn Tank Agency located at 221 West North Water. I've owned my business for 18 years and I've operated on Water Street since 2013. I've owned the building where I'm currently located for the past 4 years. I've been a member of the committee related to this 2024 Water Street project and have attended most of the meetings. We've spent hours debating and researching the various options that we felt would be appropriate for the downtown. This includes, but is not limited to, angle parking, bump outs, one-way travel, wider streets, and narrower streets. As required by the DOT, we held public meetings where we explained to those who attended all the options that were available and everything that we were considering for the possible aesthetic changes. People who attended these meetings or checked out the various places that Chad posted these items chose the aesthetics that would accompany a narrow street, wider sidewalk combination. Since we don't have enough parking stalls downtown for handicap parking, wider sidewalks will also allow for easier access by those in wheelchairs or scooters. So it isn't just the aesthetics, but that safety as well. I do understand the argument about the narrower parking, and I agree with Jen that if we could compromise on 39 feet, I think that would be something that would be very doable. Even at what we had been proposing, if you have two 8-foot wide vehicles parked across from each other with two 8-foot wide vehicles in the travel lanes, one heading east and one heading west on the other plan that we had proposed, that only totals 32 feet, which gives you 6 feet of clearance. Personally, I think that's enough clearance, but if we went with another foot, if that would make everyone else feel more comfortable, I can live with that. There are studies that show narrower streets cause people to slow down. I do believe this to be the case because I think they pay more attention to their surroundings. I also think this is going to be important once we newly pave this road because newly paved roads tend to turn roadways into speedways, at least in my experience. The smoother the new road, the faster people tend to travel. I haven't seen a lot of issues with safety in front of my business. The 2 accidents that I've had directly in front of my building were from people who backed into the person behind them, not from swinging a door open or having difficulty getting into or out of their vehicle. But I'm not saying that that's not a concern. I was really disappointed to hear people say at the last meeting that there isn't anything in our downtown but bars. We need to get people to slow down and take a look around and see what is in our downtown. I'm sorry, but on my side of the street, there aren't any bars at all. And across the street, there's a total of 3. We have familiar grounds, a bakery, a grocery store, 2 stores that sell clothing, a thrift store, an antique store, 2 restaurants, and several other businesses. I think we need to invest in that. There was discussion regarding us wanting to make New London a destination, and as someone else pointed out, New London in many ways is already a destination for fishing, hunting, and other outdoor activities like camping. We need our downtown to reflect that this is a great place to spend time when they're here for those activities.
Coming up on your final minutes.
Okay. It has never been our intention to turn New London into Door County. We don't have the wineries, orchards, or gift shops to do this. We do have the ability to turn ourselves into Wapaka, where people vacation in the area and then shop in the area. People using our businesses generate revenue, which helps keep our community and keeps it vital. That should be your goal. My business serves people all across Wisconsin, and I have people visit my office from quite a distance. And when they're here, they ask where they can eat, shop, and what's neat to see, like our murals, things like that. And we are always trying to get them to check out our downtown and what it has to offer. Let's make this change as part of a step forward, and I hope you'll consider our suggestions seriously and show a commitment to the city that you serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Tank. Any further comment?
I would like to comment if I could. As a
Public
citizen.
comment.
This is kind of to the council. I believe that we should respectfully follow the subcommittee's recommendation of a narrower road with wider sidewalks. This committee was put together by choosing citizens with considerable knowledge and proven abilities to problem solve and communicate. This committee has logged in many hours of talking to people, researching and debating all of the options. Creating these subcommittees and not going with their recommendation makes having these committees pointless. Citizens will not want to serve on these committees if their hard work is not listened to. According to votes, which included business owners, several active clubs members, and the public, it was an overwhelming majority. I can respect the opinions of the non-majority, but ultimately it's time for a change. This will bring opportunity to our downtown. This is not something to be scared of and compromise on. So let's do the right thing for our city and make a difference right here tonight and vote no on what is being proposed. So we can consider the recommendation by the committee.
Thank you, Ms. Olson.
My name's Trapper Danke. I own Academy Martial Arts, and I also own the building it's located in. It's right next to Water Street Vintage, right across from El Tequila's. Wider sidewalks or narrower sidewalks probably won't affect my business either way, to be honest with you. But my business, probably only half of our clientele is actually from New London. We bring people all the way from Green Bay to Shawano to Wapaka that drive there, Stevens Point. Then occasionally on the weekends, we have people that drive all the way from Milwaukee, Madison that come to our gym and train. And there's really nothing, I mean, I think there's stuff to make them stay there in New London if you make it more inviting. And that's why I'm supportive of the wider sidewalks. Is I think it makes everything more inviting to maybe, instead of just going to the gym and leave and have these potential customers for other businesses, that maybe they'll see people sitting out in front of Jolly Rogers or, you know, something set up in front of the clothing store and just make it more inviting. Again, I don't think it'll affect my business anyway, except for maybe it'll make my property value worth more, I guess. But, you know, that'd be a bonus, I guess. But, yeah, that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Danke. Any further public comment?
Hello, my name is Isaiah Bastion. I'm a full-time employee at Familiar Grounds, as well as I train at Academy Martial Arts, as aforementioned. So I spend a lot of time downtown personally. And I really think this is a great opportunity to bring more people into the downtown. Spending a lot of time downtown, we do have a lot of great things to offer. Familiar Grounds, I train at Academy. The murals are amazing, especially the new one down there. As well as going to Jolly Rogers every Friday. I believe the wider sidewalks and the narrower streets will bring in extra people to downtown, especially for the youth. As someone who is currently 18, just turned 18 recently, there isn't a bunch of stuff for me to do downtown other than what I currently do. I can't go out and drink on the weekends and that sort of stuff. So it would be amazing to have outdoor seating in front of the restaurants. And just more area downtown so I can invite my friends and come down, as well as just have a bunch of extra space that'll bring a lot more people into downtown and make it a destination area.
Thank you, Mr. Bastion. Any further comments? Any further comments? With none, we'll move on to standing and special committees. We'll start out with the Board of Public Works. Mr. Barrington?
Thank you. Board of Public Works met on Monday, October 4th, 2021. Meeting called to order at 4:30. Public comment relevant to item was on the agenda. Steve Sternberg voiced concern about the smell coming from the wastewater treatment facility. Shirley Sternberg, Tabitha Meyer, Lynn Tank, April Kapitsky offered opinions relating to the upcoming discussion on possible changes to the street and sidewalks width for the 2024 North Water Street reconstruction project. Wastewater treatment facility update. There were no concerns on the monthly reports. There was review a request for a loading zone on North Water Street. Gordy Sherpke explained the difficulty and safety concerns of loading and unloading carpets and other products for his retail tenant at 310 North Water Street. Sherpke is requesting to designate a loading zone in front of his building. The board will discuss this option further at future meeting. No motion was made at this time. Next, discuss and select the street sidewalk typical width for the 2024 downtown reconstruction project. The board discussed options for changing the street and sidewalk widths for the 2024 downtown project. Opinions of increasing the sidewalk width for more pedestrian accommodations to promote downtown as a destination versus safety concerns of narrowing the road and parking lanes were discussed by the Board of Public. Mike Simon, lead engineer for the project, referenced that the recommended DOT standards for downtown sidewalk widths are 10 feet. This would provide a 4-foot curb terrace to accommodate trees, lights, and other amenities, and 6-foot sidewalk pedestrian walkway. Board members referenced the width of the recent Warner Allen project, which is 12-foot travel, 8-foot parking lane. Motion made and seconded to instruct engineers to decide the upcoming downtown project for 12-foot travel lane, 8-foot parking, 9.5-foot sidewalk. Motion was carried 5-4. The next item was consider awarding a contract for the 2021-2022 snow removal season. This contract supplements the city's in-house staffing efforts by plowing specific areas at times when the staff is off the clock. Request for permission were released, and one proposal was received by Rowell's Auto Body and Snow Plowing. Rowell's has been awarded this contract for the past 5 years. Staff know that Rowell's is good to work with and does quality work. Motion made and seconded by the council, by the committee, to recommend to council the 2021-2022 snow removal season contract to Rowell's. Motion carried by all. The next item was to recommend to council an agreement for engineering services for the 2022 road improvement projects to Lyons, Avon, and Lima Streets. Board members discussed the engineering services agreement from McMahon Associates for the 2022 improvement. Engineering needs to begin now for the early 2022 bid release. It was noted that the council has received a CDBG grant to assist with a portion of the funding. Motion made and seconded to accept the engineering and services agreement with McMahon and Associates. The next item was to consider a proposal to add funding signage to road improvement projects. Mayor Herder led a discussion to add signage to certain projects to make the community aware of what funds have been used to finance certain road improvements throughout the city. Examples of this would be the projects funded by the wheel tax and CDBG grants. The next item was 2022 capital project list. Mr. Hirth presented the department's 2022 capital projects list. There are no changes or suggestions at this time. No motion was made. Director's report, none presented. Future agenda items was the loading zone on North Water Street. Discuss and confirm next meeting dates. The next Public Works meeting will be held on Monday, November 1st, 2021 at 4:30. No further motion. The meeting was agended at 6. I recommend to council an ordinance adjusting the sewer rate fees for the wastewater treatment facility to raise $1 from $5 to $6 monthly for metered usages. This is the second reading.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Barrington, seconded by Mr. Herder, for ordinance adjusting sewer rate fees at the wastewater treatment facility, $1 from $5 to $6 monthly for metered users. Second reading. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 10-0.
The next item I see is consider instructing engineers for design the upcoming downtown reconstruction project, 12-foot vehicle lane, 8-foot parking lane, 9.5-foot sidewalk width.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Barrington, seconded by Mr. Zog, to consider a construction engineer to design the upcoming downtown reconstruction project with a 12-foot vehicle travel lane, 8-foot parking lane, and a 9.5-foot sidewalk width. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballot. Motion carried, 7-3.
Computer went. The next item is to approve the 2021-2022 snow removal contract to Rowell's Auto Body and Snow Plowing.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Barrington, seconded by Mr. Besaw, for approval of the 2021-2022 snow removal season contract to Roll's Auto Body and Snow Plowing. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Mr. Zog.
What the hell?
Motion carried, 10-0. Thank you, Zog.
The next item is acceptance of an engineering services agreement with McMahon Associates for the 2022 road improvement project on Lyons, Avon, and Lima Streets.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Barrington, seconded by Mr. Zog. Acceptance of the engineering service agreement with McMahon Associates for 2022 road improvement projects on Lyons, Avon, and Lima Streets. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried by all.
The next is to consider a proposal. I move to consider a proposal to add funding signage to the road improvement projects.
Second.
Motion been made by Mr. Barrington, seconded by Mr. Herter. To consider proposal to add funding signage to road improvement projects. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 8 with 2 noes.
That is all I have tonight, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Barrington. We'll continue on to Finance and Personnel. Mr. Dorsey?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Finance and Personnel Committee met Wednesday, October 6th at 4:30. The meeting was called to order. Motion was made by Barrington and seconded by Roberts to approve the agenda. Carried 9-0. Lemke was called upon and explained the proposed district and ward plans for redistricting and outlined what changes would be to the existing districts and wards. Motion was made by Fache, seconded by Besaw, to recommend to council adoption of the resolution accompanying the establishment of wards in accordance with the data finish from the 2020 U.S. Census. This item will be voted on in a special council meeting to be held Thursday, October 14th. Carried 9-0. A motion was made by Besaw, seconded by Roberts, to recommend to council an ordinance to amend section 1.03 of the municipal code and revise the maps related to the adjustment of ward boundaries and aldermanic districts. This item will also be voted on at the special council meeting. Motion carried 9-0. There is a discussion on District 2 council vacancy, and a review with suggested minor wording revisions of questions to be used in the appointment process. The committee, at the recommendation of Fache, requested that the clerk draw names out of a hat to determine the order of speakers for the candidates at the November council meeting. No motion was needed for this item. Administrator Chadwick discussed a ambulance subsidy contract. Horth pointed out on page 29 of the agenda packet that the subsidy went down. Horth highlighted the 2020 rate at $10.32 per capita had increased to $15.33 in 2021 and back down to $10.95 per capita in 2022. Horth suggested this decreased the budget by $32,000. Mayor Herter commended Gold Cross for sticking to their word. A motion was made by Roberts and seconded by Barrington to recommend council approval of the ambulance subsidy contract with Gold Cross Ambulance Service. Carried 9-0. Radke explained the application for the state trust fund loan. She noted that the disbursement date will be 11/9/2021 so that the city can start paying on it and save money on interest. A motion was made by Barrington and seconded by Besaw to approve the resolution for the state trust fund loan in the amount of $250,000, $150,000 for the roof projects and $100,000 for the library project. Carried 9-0. Finance Director Radke reviewed the monthly financial reports. Roberts questioned why the expense category of equipment replacement was so high, and Radke explained that this is actual money spent, but that money will come out of assigned capital funds in February for that line item. The financial director's report was discussed. There being no public comment or further business, a motion was made by Barrington, seconded by Roberts, to adjourn at 5:20. Carried 9-0. The next regularly scheduled Finance Committee meeting will be held in the council chambers on November 3rd at 4:30. I bring to you the approval of the license list.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Herter. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 10-0.
Also, the approval of a resolution for the state trust fund loan roofing project / library.
Second.
Motion been made by Dorsey and seconded by Mr. Barrington for approval of resolution for state trust fund loan roofing projects for the library. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 10-0.
That is all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Next is Park and Recreation, Mr. Besaw.
Thank you, Your Honor. Park and Rec Committee met on Tuesday, October 5th. Meeting was called to order at 4:45. Motion was made by Pache and seconded by Roberts to move to approve the agenda. Motion was carried by all. Public comment relevant to items on the agenda, there was none presented. Consider an ordinance amending Municipal Code 9.126 of the city boat launch fee. The committee reviewed amended ordinance 9.126 city boat launch fees. Pache made the motion, Grote seconded, a move to approve the amended ordinance 9.126, the city boat launch fee. The motion was carried by all. That will be brought to council. Approval of the agreement with John Varda, DeWitt LLP for legal services for the Newton Blackmore Trail Project. Committee members reviewed an agreement with attorney John Varda, DeWitt LLP to create legal documents and negotiate for the development of the Newton Blackmore Trail Extension Project. The estimated cost is $5,000 and the work towards our efforts of communicating with the rail carrier to update them on the urgency of completing the project in 2022. It was noted that Attorney Varda was previously retained by the city to create agreements for railroad train car use, and that Varda is familiar with this portion of the railroad track and this situation. Pache made the motion, Ritchie seconded, to move that council accept the agreement to hire John Varda, DeWitt LLP for legal services for the Newton Blackmore Trail Project. The motion was carried by all. That'll be brought to council also. Review the 2022 capital projects request. Ginger Arndt presented the Department 2022 capital projects list. There was no changes suggested at this time. No motion was made on this item. Director's report memo. The director's report memo was included in the packet and reviewed by the committee, years of service. Ginger Arndt, Parks and Rec Director, will complete 19 years of service on October 28th. Chairman report, there is none presented. Committee members report, there is none presented. Future agenda items, Outagamie Court Plan, update Mountain Bike Park. John Dyke, Outagamie Parks Division Director. October agenda, Newton Blackmore Trail Project, Hatton Park Wall, Sculpture Trail Presentation. Discuss and confirm next month's meeting date, Tuesday, November 2nd, at 2021 at 4:45. Recess the meeting and transport for Parks ground tour. Meeting was recessed at 5:25. Ritchie made the motion, Fasay second. Move to the recess meeting for Parks ground tour. Motion was carried by all. Topics covered were the River Trail gazebo, the old boat launch dock discussion, new boat launch docks and kayak launch, Hatton Park tennis courts and wall conditions, sculpture trail presentation. Meeting reconvened the meeting, was reconvened at 6:37. Motion was made by Ritchie, seconded by Grote. Moved to reconvene. Motion was carried by all. There being no further discussion, motion was made by Ritchie to Grote to adjourn. Meeting was adjourned at 6:38. Motion was carried by all. I would ask the council to consider an ordinance amending Municipal Code 9.126 city boat launch fee.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Zog to consider an ordinance amending Municipal Code 9.126 city boat launch fee, first reading. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 10-0.
I was also asked council on approval with agreement with John Varda, DeWitt LLP for legal services for the Newton Blackmore Trail Project.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded by Mr. Dorsey to approve an agreement with John Varda DeWitt LLP for legal services for the Newton Blackmore Trail project. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Motion carried, 10-0.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Besaw. Continue on with the Planning Commission, please.
Planning Commission met on Wednesday, September 15th. Meeting was called to order at 4:53. Motion was made by Gabbard to adopt the agenda and seconded by Steingraber. Motion was carried by all. The August 26, 2021 minutes were reviewed. A motion to accept the minutes was made by Gabbard and seconded by Steingraber. Motion was carried by all. The site plan review for the Retzloff-Beckert Road development was provided to the board for consideration and approval to move the project forward. A landscape plan and a photovoltaic plan are required to complete the site plan application. A motion was made to approve the site plan with the understanding that the two other items will be included in the final packet for implementation. The motion was approved. The motion was to approve was made by Mayor Herder and seconded by Walbrook. Motion was carried by all. A site plan review for the SC Soderski House Road development and the supporting documentation was provided to the board for consideration and approval to move the project forward. A motion to approve the site plan was made by Gabbard and seconded by Steingraber. The motion was carried by all. A request for a conditional use for a property located at 421 South Pearl Street was proposed by the owner. The city zoning administrator code language that had provisions to allow this activity based on the current zoning ordinance. The conditional use was to allow for automobile sales inside the garage portion of the business. A motion to approve the conditional use was made by Gabbard and seconded by Mayor Herder. The motion was carried by all. The zoning administrator provided copies of the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code to all parties requesting same. A discussion about considering adopting the code in whole or in part to provide an additional tool for the code enforcement officer to deal with substandard properties. The zoning administrator provided an overview what the code would entail and the ability to amend the code to fit the needs of the community. The scope of the ordinance change would be to implement the overall direction administrations would like to see to move the city forward, having an aesthetic, pleasing, safe, and healthy environment. The board members and administration will review the code and make recommendations on changes they would like to see or to move in another direction entirely. The proposal could or would replace Chapter 15 and/or Chapter 10 in the current ordinances we have adopted. A review of future agenda items was discussed. The next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 28th at 5 o'clock. A motion was made to adjourn by Gabbard, seconded by Mayor Herder, carried by all. Meeting adjourned by Chair Besaw at 5:35. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Besaw. Next on the agenda is Economic Development Committee. Mr. Dorsey.
Thank you, Your Honor. The New London Economic Development Committee met Tuesday, September 28th. The meeting was called to order at 4:30. Zog Bishop approved the agenda, carried by all. The August 31st, 2021 minutes were reviewed and approved by Zog Wolf, carried by all. Fourth provided a quick report on the city's planning efforts thus far for the 2024 downtown reconstruction project. An open house was held on July 14th where city staff, engineers, and individuals on the Downtown Public Involvement Planning Subcommittee provided information on the project and collected input from attendees and business owners on how they'd like to see the downtown after the project. Takeaways from the survey include incorporate a vintage theme over a modern-looking downtown, 86% of the votes. Focus on adding trees, 82% of the votes. Use movable planters for trees and flowers versus in-ground planters, 73% of the votes. Add color to the crosswalks, streets, sidewalks, 97% of the votes. Encourage outdoor seating, 92% of the votes. And narrow the road width to increase the sidewalk width, 58% of the votes. Fourth, will keep the committee up to date on planning efforts as they progress. The state of Wisconsin released a Badger Bounce Back Grant specifically for movie theaters and event venues. Horth reached out to the owner of the Grand Theater to notify him of the grant and inquire if he had plans on reopening the theater. The owner states that parts have recently come in that were damaged due to some of the recent vandalism, and once those parts are installed, he hopes to hire and train staff and reopen the movie theater. Museum Director Christine Cross provided a report on her attendance and presentation at the Saving Wisconsin Historic Theaters Workshop on September 17th and 18th, sponsored by the Wisconsin Trust for Historic Preservation. The workshop highlighted several Wisconsin theaters and highlighted their challenges and success stories. Cross provided some history of the New London Grand and reported that the students from UW-Milwaukee came and completed digital scans of the interior and exterior of the Grand. This was for a school project to show the technology available for recording the details of historic buildings and facade. Whatever that is. Cross also provided information and case studies on how the workshop highlighted these historic theaters as economic drivers for their communities. The Chamber Director Business Report, Anytime Fitness at 1111 North Shawano Street has purchased the entire building from Star Communications and plans on expanding their business. Star Communications has relocated their operations to 106 Northridge Drive. MJ's Treasures, located at 106 North Water Street, is looking for someone to purchase her retail business or share lease space with her. Michelle Malliott currently owns both Malliott Travel and MJ's Treasures under the same roof, and her traveling business requires her to be out of town too often to run the retail store. Festival Foods is being purchased by Scogan family. New London had the only independent-owned Festival Foods in the state, and the rest are owned by the Stogan family. The transaction is in effect on October 15th. Kapitsky was invited to the former Buyer's Guide building at 416 West North Water Street, leased by Innovative Industry Staffings. The supply personnel resources consisting of supervisors, millwrights, mechanics, and non-destructive testing technicians for customers based in the pulp and paper industry. Staff there also handles day-to-day office operations for G-Force Trailers, a trailer manufacturer located in Manawa. They are almost completed with the entire interior renovation and are planning to start the exterior very soon. The city administrator's report, the city received 23 applications for the video producer position. Staff have ranked and are interviewing the top candidates on October 7th. Horth recently attended a Main Street First Impressions workshop in Waiwega sponsored by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. The program is designed to collaborate and provide feedback for enhancing downtown's facade and professionals around the state. The committee reviewed speakers and agenda items for future meetings. There was no public input. The next committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 26, 2021 at 4:30. Bishop and Zog move to adjourn at 5:08. And I have the WCEDC monthly report as read in your packet. That is all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Moving on to the Committee of the Whole. I'll take those minutes. Committee of the Whole. A Committee of the Whole open meeting of the City of New London Common Council was convened by Mark Herter on Wednesday, September 8th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. in the council chamber of the municipal building. After the Pledge of Allegiance, roll was taken. Presiding, Mayor Herter. Members present, Besaw, Fache, Zog, Barrington, Dorsey, Dennis Herter, Billy Olson, Bernie Ritchie, and Tim Roberts. Also present, City Administrator Chad Hirth, Finance Director Judy Radke, City Clerk Nicole Lemke, Library Director Ann Hunt, Museum Director Christine Cross, Library and Museum Board members and representatives Steve Hart, Chris Bierman, Betty Roberts, Bill Fleece, Connie Zulke, and Ginny Schleiss. Organization matters, agenda, Dorsey Zog to approve the agenda as presented, carried 9-0. Presentation discussion regarding funding for the library annex project. Herder recognized Radke to provide financial information for the committee of the whole regarding the library's funding request. Radke stated she had prepared information for two choices. City financing the request of $750,000 for the library annex project at a $250,000 each year in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Option 2, referendum. Radke noted the alternative of a referendum, page 3 of the agenda packet, was just an example because if the library went to referendum, they would have the choice of how the referendum would look. Radke went through the document included in the agenda packet, page 2, outlining how the project could be financed in the years 2022, 23, and 24. Radke highlighted page 4 of the agenda packet showing the money the city was spending on roads for the next 6 years and the funding sources. Radke noted wheel tax was not included as the revenue would be used for smaller projects. Radke noted nothing is being taken away from maintenance, which is budgeted as part of capital projects. Radke felt the city could afford to bond in 2024 as the city is not at capacity, that the city was doing its due diligence in regards to the road projects. Zog asked what the best avenue to fund the project was, and Radke stated the plan she laid out could fund the $750,000 without raising taxes. Radke stated the library project was another way to gain people and economic development tool. Radke said it was the committee's choice to fund or ask the library to go to referendum. Robert said there were a lot of questions, particularly in the funding for the year 23, as the TID money and state grant opportunity are not guaranteed funding sources. Robert said it should go to referendum to give the city a voice, whether people wanted it or not. Mayor Herder stated there were a lot of questions initially and that the plan started out differently. He said he had spent a lot of time with the finance director, finance chair, and with Hearth. Mayor Herder said he had listened to constituents about street and counted 11 roads to be done and referred to the patching contract coming to council. Mayor Herder said Radke had laid out an opportunity to do this without raising taxes. Mayor Herder said he fully supported the library project for the growth of the city. Dorsey stated, as the chair of Finance and Economic Development Committees, that this was something the city needs to do, and that it will only help the city. Besaw stated if the city can keep taxes down and the constituents can see that road work is being done, that he supports it. Fauché thanked Radke for coming up with a plan and for her fiduciary management. Fauché expressed his agreement with Dorsey, Besaw, and Mayor Herder. Fauché highlighted the list of donor and the money raised, pages 11 and 12 of the agenda packet. Fauché said those donations were a statement from constituents. Fauché said the time is now and that he didn't want to see any further delays. Fauché said a referendum was not wise and that the city should make the 3-year commitment and contributors would fall in line. Dorsey, Zog, made a motion to finance the library annex project as presented. Robert stated that Radke was a wonderful salesman, but this is $750,000. Robert voiced concern in using bonding and paying interest to finance the project. Robert said that the project was essentially an annex of conference rooms. Robert said constituents think this is being paid for by donors and was concerned our grandkids will have to put on a new roof. Robert stated the ongoing budget was unknown and undervalued. Robert said it was a big risk. Roberts said he doesn't see a need and that a referendum would show if the idea was supported or not. A vote was then taken and the motion carried 8-1, Roberts against. There being no more further business, Dorsey, Zog, move to adjourn, carried 9-0. The meeting adjourned 6:09 PM. With that, I'm looking for a motion for approval of city financing the request of $750,000 for the library annex project.
Make a motion. Move
Second.
to accept it.
Motion made by Zog, seconded by Mr. Dorsey. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Mr. Dorsey?
Working on it, there we go.
Motion carried, 9-1. Move on to minutes and reports. Will stand as read as in your packet. Can continue on to the mayor's report. At this time, I'll appoint the Utilities Commission of Roger Steingraber and Ted Coppersmith. We can do that with no council approval. 2, I have accepted resignation of Alderman Olson effective October 15th, 2021. With that being said, I would look for a motion and authorization for clerk to advertise vacancy to persons in District 2 interested in being appointed to fill District 2 vacancy until spring 2022 election in the official paper and online by submitting a letter of interest to the clerk's office.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Zog, seconded by Mr. Ritchie. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Mr. Ritchie, still waiting on you. Motion carried 10-0. That is all that I have at this time. We'll continue on. We'll jump. Are you ready, Chad? All right, then we'll continue on with City Administrator Chad Hirth.
Thank you, Your Honor. As most everyone knows, New London was host to this year's Habitat for Humanity's Rock the Block event. This year, the group completed over 30 different improvement projects throughout the city. I'd just like to put a shout out and thank you to the Fox Cities Habitat for Humanity group and all the volunteers who made a difference in our neighborhoods. I also want to highlight a plaque that the Fox Cities Habitat group presented us this morning, thanking the city in being a partner for this year's project. So thank you, Habitat for Humanity, for giving us that. I'll pass this around for everyone to take a look at that. Want to let everybody know we do have a department head position open right now. We are currently accepting applications for our Director of Public Works position. So if anyone knows of anybody who's interested and qualified as a candidate, you can let them know that they can look on the city's employment page, and that posting will close October 24th. I'm excited to let everybody know New London has a new taxi cab service in town. You may see them driving around. Fox Valley Cab is providing service to the city of New London, and I looked on their website, and it appears they have an app that you can download and that you can use that on your phone as well. So they're getting pretty technological with that, and you can just schedule your taxi cab service on an app. I also like to congratulate Luke Hammonds. He's our street park superintendent, and he's also serving as our interim public works director in the birth of his new son this morning, which happened at 9:30 a.m. So we congratulate Luke for being a brand-new daddy there. And since he's not here, I will let everybody know our fall curb, side leaf, and brush pickup process began yesterday, and we're going to run that through November 19th. So if you have any questions on that, you can call us at the Public Works office, or you can see the city's website as we have the schedule on there for when the staff will be scheduled in your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hirth. Moving on to the utility manager, Mr. Bessett. He is out on conference and did not pass along any notes, so we'll be moving right along to Chief of Police, Mr. Schlueter.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just want to remind everyone, Halloween this year is October 31st from 5 to 7 p.m. Make sure everyone is safe out there. Use reflective gear. Carry lights with you. And the other thing that I want to remind everyone of is that, believe it or not, snow might be coming here soon. So our winter parking starts as of November 1st. And just want to remind everyone that there's no parking on the road from 3 a.m. till 6 a.m. So hopefully we don't see the snow for a while, but it could be coming anytime now, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next line item is the Interim Director of Public Works, Mr. Hammonds. As Mr. Hirth had said, he is welcoming his birth of his child, and he is not here as well. Chad, did he pass anything along to you for today?
Besides the leaf and brush pickup.
Okay, then we'll stand that as read. I'd like to congratulate him and his family as well on our new addition. Move on to Director and Park and Recreation, Mrs. Arndt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things the Parks and Recreation Department are working on is the fitness classes are still free till the end of this week, and then next week starts the new session. So you can get drop-in passes for that or register for those programs through the Park and Rec office or at the Aquatic and Fitness Center. The Haunted Trail is in need of volunteers, so please contact the Park and Rec Department for those if you're interested. It's a great time to get out in the community and do something fun while you're doing your volunteer hours. I know that a lot of schools are having different programs where they require you to volunteer, and this would be a really fun way to do that. And then another way to get some volunteer hours is we need pumpkin carvers for the Haunted Trail as well. We will be carving pumpkins in the Hatton shelters Tuesday, October 26th from 3:30 to 6:30 for the trail. So come on down for some hot chocolate and pumpkin carving. It's be a really fun way to get your families together to do that, and then you can leave them there and display them on the trail and pick them out when you walk through. And then down at the pool, we're also getting ready for Haunted Things. They have a haunted swim coming up October 26th from 1 to 3:15. That's a $2 admission for 4 years old and older. There's goodie bags involved and a costume contest at 12:30. So those are all of our spooky happenings for October.
Thank you, Mrs. Arndt.
Thank you.
Moving on to the Fire Chief, Mr. Wolfer.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have one thing tonight, service anniversary for Ryan Bednarowski, 11 years. Thank you.
And thank him for his years of service, and thank you. All right, moving on to other comment.
Your
Mr.
Honor,
Faget.
if I may, I'd just like to thank Alderperson Olson for her service to the city and her fresh perspective that she brought to the council. And I'd also like to thank those who spoke tonight and all of those who have committed time on the issue of our downtown development. And I'd just like to assure everyone that there was a compromise made. And I find it hard to believe with the advances of our modern engineering today that 6 inches, we won't lose our aesthetics over 6 inches. So I appreciate everybody's time and input on that, and I think that we're still looking to have a very beautiful, improved downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faget, and I'd like to echo that. Thank you, Ms. Olson, for all that you have done, and I know it wasn't an easy decision.
No, my pleasure.
With that said, we'll move into closed session per 19.85 subsection 1, subsection C, to evaluate the city administrator and review goals. Can I get a motion?
Make that motion.
Mr. Besaw made the motion. Who second? And Mr. Ritchie second. Any further discussion? Please cast your ballots. Mr. Faget. Motion carried 10-0. We'll go for a short recess, about 5 to 6 minutes while they tear down.